Hello and welcome to the 22nd episode of the Spotlight Podcast, the unofficial podcast for Century 21 sales representatives in Canada, where we discuss the hot topics and important news in the real estate industry. So I'm your host, Linas Kilius, and with me, as always, is Eryn Richardson.
Hi, Linas.
Hey, Eryn. Hey, you said my name right.
Kilius.
Yeah.
There you go.
Eryn is a broker and general manager with Century 21 Heritage Group. Eryn has an extensive background in online marketing, technology, and customer service. And I'm the head of business development at the real estate marketing company, Homeania. So today we're going to talk about a pretty standard marketing tool that agents in most markets are familiar with, the virtual tour. Virtual tours come in all sorts of formats, shapes, and sizes, and they're constantly evolving. 360 panoramics, picture slideshows, video walkthroughs, listing websites, marketing strategies, and now we're even seeing a rise in these new interactive tours and even virtual reality. So where are we headed in this space, and how can you effectively use it? Well, you have to wait a bit to find out, because we got some important news that came out of Ottawa this week that we want to address first. So just giving a little bit of a rundown, our finance minister, Bill Marneau, had a press conference on Monday. In that conference, he went over some new strategies and regulations that are going to be implemented federally. And the goal of these are to, and these are his words, to make sure we are proactive in assessing and addressing the factors that could lead to excess risk. It's a very political thing to say. So what's being implemented? There are several things he mentioned in his presser, but there's two I think that we're probably going to focus on. They're the ones getting the most attention. The first is that they want to ensure that persons qualifying for an insured mortgage can pass a more rigorous stress test during the mortgage approval process. So I want to stress that this is only for insured mortgages, and anyone who's applying for an insured mortgage will be tested against their ability to pay their mortgage if the rate was as high as the big bank's 5-year posted rate. So no matter what mortgage rate you're being offered, you would have to qualify against this higher rate, which currently is sitting around 4.6, I think 4.64% is what the CBC was reporting there. So the idea here is to make sure that the borrower could weather a rate increase. And also, obviously, this has the idea that it might cool the market down a little bit. So, I mean, CBC had a bit of a real-world example where they crunched some numbers and were trying to show how this might affect someone who's trying to buy, say, their first home. And I won't get into the exact numbers, but the conclusion they came to in their situation was that prospective buyer would qualify for 24% less value in a mortgage, which is significant, obviously. Yeah. So, Eryn, what are your thoughts on all this? You think this is a good idea?
No, I don't. I don't know how to. I mean, that seems a little straightforward. Just say no, I don't. But I don't believe that we should be trying to really stifle the first-time homebuyer market. I mean, that's essentially what this is doing. Mm-hmm. What an assured mortgage means is the person can't afford to put more than 20% down on a property, and most first-time homebuyers are in that position. So, what does that mean? That means we're trying to make it harder. Or yeah, I know, and I understand it's not necessarily harder, but it is. It's harder to get a mortgage. Therefore, people aren't going to be able to purchase maybe for another couple of years now. And instead of what they're sort of trying to do is just trying to make first-time home buyers not blow their brains out, I guess, when they purchase a house that, in 5 years, if the mortgage rate goes up, they're going to lose the house. So I get their thought in the sense that, we just want to make sure you're not over leveraging yourself and not getting in a situation. So I get that. But the problem is we're creating a bigger problem for people that can't afford to get into the market. And that's difficult right now. I mean, it's already difficult with the average home prices.
Well, the first thing I'd ask you is you just said there that we're making it more difficult for people that can't afford to get into the market. Is it a good idea to keep those people out of the market then, if it is something that they can't afford? I guess that's kind of what the banks take, or the federal banks take is on this.
Well, listen, I think in the end, markets dictate markets, and I get that, and I know why they're trying to get involved in trying to bring the market to a more reasonable level in terms of value of property to make it maybe more affordable, and they should really focus on that. bring the affordability down so these people don't get into a situation where they can't afford the mortgage, rather than saying, listen, we don't want you in the market at all. We don't want you in the market. Like what was the average? I think we've had this conversation maybe 10, 15 shows ago now, with regards to being so difficult for first-time homebuyers. And what was the average age of the first-time homebuyer? I think it was 37 years old. That was an average age. That's ridiculous. I mean, people should be able to afford a house in their 20s when they're building their family and they're getting into the market. Like, I mean, that's 37. That's really high, and this is only going to make that number higher.
Yeah, well, especially in markets like Toronto and Vancouver, where the home prices are just so astronomically high, getting into the market in the first place would be really difficult. It's tough because it's hard to predict the future and what kind of effect this is going to have. You can see the Bank of Canada's argument on this, or the finance ministers, anyways, that you want to make sure you're mitigating risk. We don't have a case that if there is some sort of market collapse, that we're going to have all these people defaulting on their mortgages, or if the interest rates, I guess that's kind of the next question is, are they doing this so that they can potentially in the future raise interest rates too? Because I guess that's one problem that's been out there, is that if you can't raise interest rates too high, because what will happen when people have to renew their mortgages, you'll get these situations where they might have issues like paying them down properly like they should, right? And that's what I guess this is kind of trying to mitigate. I've also seen the other side of the coin too, is that this is also may be giving Ottawa, allowing them the flexibility of future interest rates cuts without having to where they're going to further add fuel to the fire too. So I guess there's two sides of it. This might just be them trying to make sure they have a little bit more flexibility in adjusting the interest rates a few years down the road too. Well,
here's another side to it, okay? And this is what the government is trying to get their nose in there and whatever, is competition, okay? So let's talk about competition amongst rates in the industry. If they now have a minimum competition rate to get somebody into a mortgage, for example, I'm a first-time home buyer, I'm shopping around. The banks themselves, let's say the top 5 banks, already have programs in places and qualifications in places where they're not going to give a mortgage unless the person is going to qualify at the posted rate, which is probably in around 4.5%. So it's already been done for years from the bank standpoint. The advantage that gave some of the other lenders and trust companies that are giving out mortgages is they could qualify at a lower rate. They could qualify people at 2.5%, which is the rate that they're getting. And now what they're doing is they're saying, sorry, we're not giving you that competitive advantage anymore. You're going to be the same as the banks. So why go to those other lenders now when the banks are going to qualify you at the same rate?
So is this who is really going to hurt then too? Is these other lenders that aren't like the big banks? Because I imagine now, like you said, this is limiting their competitive advantage. Is this going to be an issue then?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. The banks are now going to they're going great. The top 5 are going perfect. Now the advantage that the other competitors have about giving rates has been taken off the table for first-time home buyers. So to me, that's, I don't want to get out and say, the wrong things here, but anti-competitive. I believe it seems like it's rate fixing on first-time home buyers. And that doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. I think the market should dictate the market. They should be able to be competitive at that rate.
Yeah. You also do have to be careful though, because you could end up having a bubble that ends up bursting, and you could have a problem as well, right? So leaving the market to itself can lead to issues if it's not properly regulated. So there are two sides of the coin, and there always are two sides to every argument.
And I think there is, and sometimes government involvement's necessary, and sometimes it's not. And this is one of the areas I don't think it might be necessary. I think there are other things the government could do as well. Again, it's a competition thing amongst lenders, and if the lender's willing to take that risk, it's on them to qualify people at that rate, and they have to take that risk. And I understand that the risk, again, the argument is that we as taxpayers and people that support CMHC and Genworth Financial in terms of the insurance companies, we don't want them to get into trouble because they're the ones insuring the mortgages. So listen, it's a vicious cycle of where do you go, where do you stop, what do you do? But I just think this one is just putting a more difficult situation for first-time home buyers even worse now. It's not. it's it's not pretty if you're a first time home buyer. I think what's going to end up happening is most of the parents of the kids that are wanting to buy houses for the first time are going to be the ones on the mortgage. Is probably what's happening.
Yeah, or I guess maybe they'll just have to look at how homes are in a lower ballpark of a figure as well, because if you're qualifying for 25% less of a mortgage, maybe you're just gonna have to look at a smaller home as well.
And where are those? That's the problem.
I guess so.
Those out there.
It does. I guess it does depend on the market, because it's not necessarily just Toronto and Vancouver this affects. It's all across the country. So it might just force people into lower pricing brackets that are first time home buyers. So maybe those entry level homes will be a little bit lower in value that they're looking at getting into. But who knows? It's the kind of thing. I mean, you've got your opinions, and then the finance minister has his. So it'll be interesting to see how things kind of shake out over the years.
Let me just say, he's probably a much smarter person. So maybe but when it comes to those poor people that want to buy a house, and I'm not saying poor as in wealthy, as just poor, meaning that I feel sorry for them. It's going to be tough for them.
Well, maybe 10 years from now, when you're finance minister, we can talk about this topic again.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about the second bit, because it's not just this that they talked about. The other big portion was the closing of this kind of odd loophole where foreign buyers could essentially dodge capital gain tax on home sales by claiming their residence that they're investing in is their principal residence, even though it technically isn't, thus being eligible for the exemption to being taxed on capital gain when they sell the home. So this is, I guess, kind of a much more subtle way of trying to mitigate the foreign investment market that compared to what happened in Vancouver, the 15% foreign ownership tax. But this can have a drastic effect on investment returns if someone is buying investment property here. So this may or may not have much impact on someone who's looking at investing in Canada and decides, hey, you know what? Well, maybe if I've got to pay whatever percentage tax on my capital gains, maybe it just makes sense for me to look elsewhere. If they're a foreign investor, they're probably looking all over the place, not just in Canadian markets, but it makes it a little bit less attractive. And I mean, these are all little things, but they can add up too, right? And if someone's a business person, they look at it and say, okay, well, hey, the numbers just don't line up as much as they used to. My risk is a little bit higher now, so maybe it just makes sense for me to invest somewhere else. So it's already questionable as to how much of an impact this has had in Vancouver, obviously with a different strategy, but it'll be interesting to see how much this affects, and this is nationwide too. Do you think it's going to have much of an effect at all, or is this something that we're just going to have to wait? We'll probably have to wait a year or two at least. I mean, to see if there's any sort of way to gauge this, because there's so many factors that are involved here, and it's so hard to actually put numbers on foreign investment too. It might be difficult to see if this has actually any effect.
Well, and isn't that scary that Vancouver, for example, has already been hit with one policy that's changed over there, and they've seen what they're saying is a bit of an effect already. Anytime you make it less attractive for anybody to invest in anything, you're going to see a change. The reason why they did it wasn't so, they're smart people. If they did it, they're probably going to see a change, because that's the reason why they did it. So they've calculated these things, and I actually like I like when you close off those type of loopholes. I never thought it was fair that a foreign investor was given any better opportunity to buy property or save on taxes over the residents of the country. So that makes no sense to me why that was in place in the first place, and the fact that they're taking that loophole away, I think, is smart. Yeah, it makes me wonder why it was there in the first place.
It almost looks to me like they're when they initially probably put in this way to get around the capital gain credit, like for actual people who have these homes being their principal residences. They probably didn't foresee that people would use this as a tax loophole. So I think it's more of an oversight that just kind of they left alone until now, and now they're deciding to make sure they shore it up and make sure that you can't take advantage of it if you're not actually principally residing in the residence. So it makes sense. Like, I mean, it's the whole point of this is to make sure you don't get taxed on capital gains if you're just buying and upgrading your home, right? The whole purpose of this tax credit is not for foreign investors to come in and be able to dodge taxes too. So, I mean, it seems to be almost like a win-win in a lot of cases too, especially from the government standpoint too. They'll be getting those capital gains taxes in their pocket, but also stifle the market a little bit in terms of just kind of cooling it off a bit. And I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have, but I mean, if you're trying to stifle foreign investment, it seems to be a pretty good way to go about it. Like you said, it's not as scary as the 15% tax that Vancouver put in, but it is a good way to do that, and it doesn't affect voters too, which is another bit, which is always important for politicians whenever they institute.
Well, they already have foreign investors. For the most part, if you were to take where the most of the foreign investment's coming from, have a good advantage in terms of the dollar right off the bat, like a 30% discount on investment that they make in real estate in Canada. So there's already good incentives for people to buy it within Canada. All the extra stuff with the taxes and everything. I'm just glad that there should be no reason why we're not looking after our own here. I mean, we can't. Again, we don't have a lot of affordability for first-time home buyers in our market in Toronto, Vancouver, the bigger markets. So, we should be looking after the people that live here and not giving loopholes to people that don't.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's kind of start wrapping this up because we're already getting about halfway through the show. We haven't even talked about our main topic yet. It is a very important news segment, so I'm not concerned about spending the time on it. But one quick question for you. So do you think this is a bearing of things to come for interest rates then? Do you think this is what they're doing it for, to give them a little more flexibility, make them go up or down?
Interest rates will go up. They know that. They I don't think they're saying they're going to do it. I think they're going to say, well, when it does happen. Yeah. And they don't know how much. They don't know what's happening in the world economy and which way it's going. We never expected it to be this low. They're never expecting it to go. It's just nobody really knows. And I don't think they know, but they are, looking after a rainy day. And when, if something like that does happen, who knows? They said they were going to raise it 3 years ago and they lowered it. So
yeah, well, I do think one of the big reasons they did implement the stress test portion that we're talking about is that they will be able to in the future raise them without having the concern about having a significant portion of these new home buyers say that can't afford that rate hike. So. And
this isn't the first time they've done these sort of stress tests. I mean, they've been doing them for the last 2 years, implementing a lot of different policies in order to make it a little, I say harder to get a mortgage, but are they really? I mean, the mortgage rates are so low as it is. I mean, listen, the reason why the prices are very high is because it's cheap to buy money right now, right? Mm-hmm. It's sort of buy houses right now. So we'll see how it goes. A little bit of government, we'll call it interaction, interference, whatever you want to say, government policy. You know what? We have to live with it. So, and the markets are going to dictate. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we'll move on to the next segment of the show then. Virtual tours. So this is a topic that's near and dear, I guess, to my heart because I work at Homeania, who puts on the Spotlight program. We do internet marketing strategies for agents as a comprehensive marketing solution. A lot of people call what we do virtual tours. We provide photography, provide videography, aerial photography, interactive virtual tours, pretty much everything you can think of, as well as an advertising strategy to promote listings. So we deal with virtual tours on a daily basis. We've been doing it for about 8 years now, I think. So we've seen virtual tours evolve quite a bit over that time. We've seen what started when I was first getting into this, 360-degree panoramics were the new big thing, right? The new hotness where you could drag around the room and look around the whole room. And then those started falling out of favor for many reasons. Flash as a technology started to kind of drop off, and it was usually required for this. And the rise of video, YouTube, and just like kind of that lean back experience. There was a time actually when we transitioned what wasn't called the Spotlight program at the time, but it was effectively its predecessor. We had 360 panoramics offered standard, and we did some A/B testing with 360 panoramics and video, and we found that the video performed a lot better. People were engaged a lot more in it, so we made the decision to drop 360s and go to video. And video's been kind of the king since then. What we're seeing now, interestingly enough, and we're talking about what is kind of on the cusp and going into the future, is these more interactive style virtual tours. kind of neat. There's a couple companies that you may or may not have heard of that deal with these, and there are, two of them are partners with us as well, technology partners we offered through the Spotlight program. iGuide, that is done by Planetar, and Matterport, which is an American company. They both have this 3D mapping technology, essentially. We take a camera and we map the home for you. Like, you put in different spots, and you kind of almost do like a Google Street View to make it so everyone knows kind of what we're talking about of the home. The one neat thing about this is it gives us this neat interactive bit. It's almost kind of like the 360s of old, but you can kind of move through the home too. So it's almost got like this video interactive component of it. But what this positions really well for is one of the new hotnesses in technologies, virtual reality, which is one of those things a lot of people will dismiss it as a gimmick. A lot of people will say, hey, this is the future, the way things are going. One neat thing is we're starting to partner now at the Spotlight program with Matterport. And they just announced a couple of days ago, and this is almost like the perfect storm. And Eryn, feel free to jump in because I'm going to be going for a while here. It's kind of the perfect storm recently for virtual reality, just like the past week almost too. And it's a good thing we're talking about it today on the show. Matterport just said a couple of days ago, hey, like, we've been testing this VR stuff out, but now we're going to start making it so that all of the interactive tours we do are VR ready. So essentially, anyone who has a virtual tour, interactive tour that's backed by this Matterport technology, again, which is what we're going to be doing with the Spotlight program, you can put on a VR headset and you can tour the home like you're actually inside of it. And I've tried it out. It's really cool. It's extremely immersive, extremely interactive. The only problem is, and it's a chicken and the egg thing, not a lot of people are using this technology yet. Not a lot of people have VR headsets yet. That being said, I mentioned this kind of the perfect storm. Just this week, Google announced its big kind of like iPhone competitor that just came out that's getting rave reviews. I actually have a friend who has had every single iPhone up until the 7, the one that was just recently announced or released just the past month or so. And he's like, you know what? I think it's time. I'm going to jump over to Android and Google, since they're really backing this new hardware platform that they've got with this new Pixel phone, is what it's called, Pixel and Pixel XL. And it has got this VR ready integration for you. You can buy this headset that goes along with it for less than $100. You slot in your phone into the headset, you put it on, and you've got a VR headset at home. Makes it a lot more commercially available. And actually, Google a few years ago too, they released this kind of almost like a gag at the time too. It was this thing they called Google Cardboard. It was when VR was first started kind of like launching up. People were getting really excited. Oh, VR is the future. VR is the future. Google at one of the conferences was like, we made a VR headset. It's made out of cardboard with some plastic lenses. Costs, you can buy them now. They're $20. They gave them to everyone who attended the conference kind of as a gag. Turns out that gag caught on. Everyone was like, hey, this is kind of neat. Like, you can get VR into everybody's hands for like a very cost-effective price. So that coupled with this new kind of initiative by Google to make all their phones VR ready as well, and not to mention that this Google Cardboard actually works with the iPhone. You also may have heard of the Samsung Gear VR or the PlayStation VR, the Oculus Rift. There's all sorts of new VR platforms that are coming out and are the big new hotness in technology now. We're starting to get these into people's hands. They're starting to come down in price quite a bit. Google Cardboard only costs $20, and it's compatible with pretty much every phone out there except for BlackBerry. But yeah, so like we're starting to get into people's hands, and this opens up a lot of opportunity. Can you imagine, Eryn, having it so that I think we talked about this before the show. We're talking about you could have at your mall kiosk, you could have a VR headset, and if you've got a whole bunch of properties done in VR, you can take someone through a bunch of showings essentially from like at the spot in the mall. It's an interesting idea and concept. Who knows where it's going to go? But if this becomes a prevalent platform, it could really revolutionize how we take people through homes. It's
fun. And anytime you can get some interaction with customers and clients and homeowners and home buyers and everything is fun. When it's fun, it's interactive. That's you can be a point of difference and give value to your customers, and they'll see you as a technology. So I love it. I can't wait for some of that stuff to come out and play with it. It's fun.
Yeah, for sure. And at Spotlight, we're making a big investment. We're going to purchase a whole bunch of like basically Spotlight branded Google Cardboards that we're going to be getting into the hands of agents too, to try out this new technology and everything and see where it goes. But I'm pretty excited about it. Again, it's the kind of thing with any new technology platform, it's difficult to predict or see or even figure out a lot of like the future uses of it too. But I mean, I'm sure just the discussion here is probably getting people's minds going. I'm sure there's probably people thinking like, oh, this might be really good use.
Mine's. I'm just thinking. I want to be the first person at a home show. Just how many boring home shows do you go to and say, okay, I set up a booth, I handed my card, home evaluation, come check out your list of properties or whatever. It's like, how do we make it interactive? How do we have fun with people that are walking by? And if you've got a virtual reality headset or a cardboard thing that you can put on your head and take with you and play with it at home, what a great opportunity for some good promotion.
Yeah. Well, kind of ironically that you mentioned that, because we're going out to Vancouver conference, and I was just on the phone. I can say I was on the phone with China, but I was on the phone with some suppliers from China. We're looking at actually, like I said, making an investment in some of these Google Cardboards that are branded by Spotlight, and actually giving them out at conference to people to come by the booth and such too, and get them like kind of interested in the technology and everything too. And it's the kind of thing that everyone, like a lot of people, most people have heard of VR and stuff, and maybe have like dabbled in it, but everyone wants to check it out. So everyone it's a good conversation, but it's a good thing to get people by the booth and such too, right? So it's something that we're looking into. I mean, one of the problems that we might run into is just the timing issue. We might not be able to get them in time for conference, but we're hoping. So I mean, if you come out to conference, come check out our booth, ask about the VR. We're definitely have a demo there for everybody, but we may not have ones to give out, but we're hoping we will. Because now it's just so accessible. The Google Cardboard too makes it even better because everyone's got a cell phone. And except for those poor BlackBerry folk, everyone's got one that's compatible.
I still have a friend that has a flip phone.
Oh, everyone
still got a flip phone. He says, yeah, I can get texts, but they're not, it's not hard to read. They're hard to read. He's still got this old phone. It's amazing.
Everyone's got that poor friend who just has been fighting it. Yeah. I've got a friend he actually had a flip phone and he ditched it, and he's like, you know what? If you want to get a hold of me, just call my house line. I was like, your house line? Was this 1995? Come on.
You have a house line?
Yeah, that's the only way to get a hold of them. But anyhow, everyone. It's pretty neat. Yeah, generally everyone's got a smartphone, especially in the real estate industry now too. Like any realtor would be crazy if you didn't have one. I apologize if I just called you crazy, but so the nice thing is that if these things cost like $20 too, you can get them in your client's hands reasonably too. Like this might be the kind of thing, like it might be a neat thing to show your client a listing presentation too. You could say like, hey, like we can give you this. I can get you one of these cardboards. We can give it to you. I've got one right here. Check out what I can do for your home, and like I'll give you one of these if you get me as your listing agent. You can have this cool thing to take away with you, and you can have that home memory forever, and you can walk through your house again like you used to own it after you sell it and such too. So there's just neat applications to it. There are some like the gimmicky type things that we were talking about too, but a lot of client perception stuff can be gimmicky, but it also the gimmicky stuff sometimes sells as well.
And I put a little preface there to make sure you to be careful. And I know the Spotlight program has always been a very professional looking website, a very professional program for people and interactive and easy to use. So the video is still popular. The one thing that I'm going to say about technology is don't be one of those people that make it so technology. Like you go to your your virtual tour site for the property, and all of a sudden it's just, it's way too advanced for the basic user that just wants to see pictures of the property, right?
Yeah.
I mean, still just want to be able to have that user experience. Let me see pictures.
Oh, for sure. And I definitely suggest anyone who's listening to the show, and we'll put the link to this in the show notes. Maybe this will be our app of the week because we're already running out of time. So Matterport, check it out. Like you can go to matterport.com. It's Matter, MATTER. port.com. They've got demos there. It's pretty neat. You don't need a VR headset. One of the neat things is that it gives you what they call a dollhouse view of the home. So like your home's like, it's almost like scanned the whole interior. They've got all the rooms, how they mesh together. And you can like almost like zoom out of the room, out of the home, and it'll take the walls off the home. So you can kind of like look at the home like a dollhouse. You can spin it around, and you can click on a room, and it'll zoom you into the room. You can check things out there. You can look at each level as like a bird's eye view too, almost like a floor plan, but like a realistic one because it's actually like the floors, pictures, and everything in there. And you can, we showed this to some agents just yesterday. And they were like, "Oh man, we need that like now." I had an agent because we're just training out for photographers on the Matterport technology. Like, I need one on Friday. Let's make that happen. So we're sending a photographer to that home to do some training to put it together. But it was just crazy to me how much how much interest there was in this new kind of like platform that we're looking at and we're investing in. So yeah, I mean, the VR stuff aside, it's still interesting and immersive that way too, and it is a neat way to look at a home, because videos and slideshows, 360 panoramics, they're all great too, and they have their place, but there's just something about being able to like go through the home at your own pace in the way that you want to, and kind of check it out from the comfort of your home or a VR headset or wherever you happen to be, but not a computer. So.
Yeah, I know we talked a lot about obviously the user experience when it comes to virtual tours. When I was looking for a virtual tour site, actually I've been using the Spotlight program for probably, I don't know, 8 years. Is that how? When did that come out?
I think it was 8 years ago. Someone asked me the question when I was doing a seminar the other day, and I was like, I lost track of time. I got 2 kids. Ever since I had them, it's hard to keep track of time anymore. And
Yeah.
I remember when I used to keep track of my birthdays, I have to think about how old I am now. Even I've got a birthday coming up in a week. I'm like, how old am I again? Oh yeah, geez, that's how old I am. Really? Oh, so just trying to keep track of stuff is difficult. I think it was probably 2000. Yeah, probably 2009, I guess. So yeah, I guess we're 7-8 years ish that we've been doing this for. So I mean, it wasn't always called the Spotlight program. We've been doing it in some form or another. So.
Oh, and I think the original premise of the Spotlight program was not just to have a virtual tour site, but to have a whole marketing experience of online. Correct? I mean, you want and offline. I mean, you do the riders on the homes with the 1-800 line and the websites to go to, and you're doing things that are outside the website or outside the virtual tour as well. When I left the company 4 years ago, I decided to try something new, and then I had to look for something to replace it. And there's lots of virtual tour sites out there, and people are right saying, listen, virtual tour sites, there's lots of them. There's different things. What makes yours better than the other? I personally know that when it comes to the marketing of a home online, or just generally marketing of the home, the Spotlight system sort of does everything for you, and especially from the online portion. So it's not just the user experience in terms of seeing, the Matterport and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that go in the back end of the Spotlight system. And I'm just saying this because I think when you're looking for a virtual tour company and looking for a solution for that, don't just think user experience and what it looks like. Look at functionality. Is it performing very well on Google? Are you getting up in the searches? Are you creating leads from your website? Are people interacting with it? Is it available in different languages? All those different things should be portions of your whole marketing experience. And I have to commend you, Linas. You guys have done an amazing job on that.
Well, thanks a lot. And not trying to turn this into like a commercial about Spotlight, but I guess since we're talking about virtual tours, it almost naturally flows to this. One thing that I want to say struggled with, but there's a perception issue when people first hear about it, if I don't get a chance to talk to them in person about what it is that we do, because a lot of people will look at virtual tour companies and they'll think they're just that. They'll be like, oh, it's just all they do is like photography and like, the video or like the 360s or whatever. And then that's it. And realistically, like Eryn's saying, that's really not enough. Like you can't just have the thing. You've got to make sure you're implementing it, you're marketing it properly. And that's one thing that we've always tried to do the Spotlight program, is make sure we've got this complete strategy. We've got a website that's going to generate leads. We've got an internet marketing strategy that filters traffic to your listing. We have like advertising partners that we work with to try and get that traffic in there. We do listing presentations we put together for the agents. We do like statistical studies to show how well the Spotlight program performs. These are like all sorts of different things you don't just get from a virtual tour company or a photographer that has some sort of virtual tour site that they give you. And that's one thing that we've always been a purveyor of, is the full package, right? It's an internet marketing strategy that works. I think that's our slogan. So, I mean, that's the whole idea. You want to have an internet marketing strategy, and just having the pictures and having the video isn't enough. You need to be using it properly. And just like with any technology, like Eryn said, like you can get lost in the technology and get too far away from what actually works. And it's blending the two and using it effectively that's important. You don't want to over text somebody. You want to make sure it's a blend of a balance throughout your marketing strategy. So yeah, good,
nice. You know what? It's not a plug. I like to say that I have no monetary ownership or getting any benefits from the Spotlight program. Only to say that I have gone to competition, and I came back to Century 21 because of the program. I mean, it's just fantastic. So.
Yeah, and we encourage anyone to use it. Definitely, like if you have any questions about it, you can always call us, email us anytime. We'll talk to you about it. I do a whole bunch of seminars and stuff. I did a couple yesterday and the day before. So, but anyways, we don't want to get too far into that. Is there anything else you want to talk about with the virtual reality or the virtual tours or any of this stuff before I guess we conclude the show? Because we're hitting the 35-minute mark now. So.
Yeah, no, I think you did a very good job of explaining what's coming too, which is it's fun and anytime you can make something interactive and fun, it just helps you give another value to what services you provide to a seller or buyer or anybody in the public. Yeah,
like I mentioned at the seminar I did yesterday, it's very rare that I see agents kind of get excited to try something. That's what was happening with this too. It is kind of it's the cutting edge stuff, right? So everyone wants to like check it out and get a little excited about it. It's hard to excite people about real estate, especially if you've been in the industry for a while. But this seems to be doing that, so it'll be interesting to see how things go going forward. So I think we're gonna wrap up the show there, though. So if you like the show, subscribe to our show on Stitcher, iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts online. And please don't forget to leave us a 5-star review on those sites. It really does actually help. So you can watch this and past shows at spotlight.century21.ca/podcast. If you need to reach us, you can email us anytime at podcast@homeania.com. That's podcast at HOM as in Mary, EAN as in Nancy, IA.com. So this podcast was brought to you by the Spotlight Marketing Program, which we've been talking about for the past 50 minutes or so. An exclusive marketing package available only to Century 21 sales representatives in Canada. Spotlight provides agents with a comprehensive internet marketing strategy for their listings. We provide high-quality HDR photography, stunning HD video tours, a cutting-edge responsive website, and an extensive advertising system that will help sell your listings faster, sell them for more money, impress your clients, and generate leads. In the future, we're going to be offering virtual reality-ready virtual tours as well. So find out why so many top agents are using Spotlight by visiting spotlight.century21.ca today. Thanks for watching. Have a great week.